Hello, I'm mtoms127. I've been speedrunning GTA games off and on for the past 9.5 years or so. Yes, I am very old. I started running San Andreas before moving on and learning some of GTA 3 and GTA 5. I always enjoyed running miscellaneous and collectible categories, having run all horseshoes and all collectibles in San Andreas and stunt jumps in 5. And stunt jumps is what I'm here to talk to you about today. Recently, a video was made by YouTuber Jethro, who detailed the world record history of the category. When he reached out for me for information about the category, I got very excited because this is probably my favorite category of any of the games I've ever run. It's really fun to play, it's really fun to watch, it's really fun to route. So he put together a very well presented history of the category. It's much better edited and more polished than anything I'm going to be capable of cobbling together. But unfortunately, the history he presented is only part of the story of the category, and a series of obstacles stands in the way of easily piecing together what has happened in the category between the first run back in 2016 and the final major changes to the timing of the category in 2019. Since I was actively running the category through some of this time, I've had a much easier time researching the world record history, and I've put together this video to try to fill in some of the gaps and correct some of the information presented in Jetro's video. This is not a full history of the category. It's more of a companion piece to the Jetro video. I'll link it in the description, and we'll take a look at a couple of clips from his video in this video as I go through and fill in the gaps. Jetro's video essentially goes through this world record history from speedrun.com and gives some details on the route changes and improvements made by the runners along the way. I'm going to start off by explaining the issues that have led to this world record history page being inaccurate. And the two primary reasons for this are one, unsubmitted and deleted runs, two, a change to the category's timing and only some runs being retimed after that change was made. So the first issue is easy enough to understand. Some world records were just never submitted to speedrun.com in the first place because the runners were still actively improving their time and wanted to wait until they had a good run that they could submit to the leaderboard. This isn't too much of a big deal as it only affects runs that were world record for very, very short periods of time. I'll detail a couple of examples of this later in the video. And then there are other runs that were world records and submitted to the leaderboard and then later deleted. In particular, runs from Illuminati7777, as he has deleted his speedrun.com account on more than one occasion. He's also deleted most of his old YouTube videos and Twitch highlights, leaving very little evidence of his past runs. But those runs were submitted to the leaderboard and verified by moderators, and I believe they still deserve to be treated as legitimate world records. So I'll be detailing some of these runs later in the video as well. The second issue with the leaderboard history is a bit more complicated. So in May of 2019, a change was made to move the start of timing for the category to an autosave at the beginning of Franklin and Lamar, as opposed to the start of a new game. This change is discussed more in Jetro's video. It was a very popular change. It was made to eliminate 6 minutes of essentially no gameplay at the start of the run, which is prologue. This is mostly unskippable cutscenes and just failing the mission over and over again to be able to skip it as fast as possible. After this timing change was made, the moderators stated that they would go through and retime all past runs. Unfortunately, this did not happen. Initially, every runner's PB was retimed only. This gave every obsolete run essentially a 6 minute penalty, which means that very old runs that were currently PBs could jump ahead of newer obsolete runs, thus retroactively making the obsolete runs look like they were always slower. I refer to this condition of a faster obsolete run being demoted by a slower PB as the run being eclipsed as the slower PB is basically blocking out the faster obsolete run from appearing in the world record history. This will be explained further with some examples shortly, so if you don't understand, hopefully you will after we look at a couple examples. In 2023, I actually raised this issue to the moderators, asking if they would look into retiming at least the runs that were formerly world records so that we could have this accurate world record history page. The moderator, Rello, briefly looked into this and even retimed at least one run at that time, but the rest of the runs remained unretimed. Then in 2024, changes were being made to the leaderboard, and I once again reached out to the mods to ask them to look into rectifying this retiming issue. And then moderator Stormraid went through and retimed every run that had surviving video footage. I want to note Stormraid has verified the vast majority of all runs done in the past few years. So without his work, I think some of my PBs from 2025 and 2024 would still be awaiting verification to this day. So I want to give a big shout out to Stormraid for really being the workhorse amongst the mods, getting through the submission queue. Now that some of that background information as to why this video is necessary is out of the way, we can begin looking at some of the inaccuracies in Jetro's video. The early history of the category that he presented through the summer of 2017 is all accurate. Runs from this time were all very unoptimized, and there's very large gaps between world record times, which means there's no threat of the retiming shenanigans resulting in missing world records from the world record history page. But starting in the summer of 2017, that will change.
In the summer of 2017, though, Dates would manage to beat his time and was trading the world record a few times with another runner named Unhallowed.
So this screenshot is inaccurate. Unhallowed only ever had one world record, which is the first time here, the 5746. The 4908 is his current PB as he quit speedrunning the category in 2017. So because it's his current PB, it was also his PB in 2019 when the timing change happened. So what does that mean? If you've forgotten already, I don't blame you. It means that it's been retimed. So this run is actually probably 6 to 6.5 minutes faster than it actually was. So the real time that he got in 2017 was probably a mid to high 55-minute time. I can't say for certain because the footage is no longer available and it was never a world record, so I can't go back from before the timing change and find what the old time was. But what we can say for certain is that this 4908 was not a world record. Dates' 53-minute run was a world record, and it would stay a world record not for the 9 days that's shown here, but actually for about 2 months. It was beaten in July by another runner, TKM. TKM took about 30 seconds off of Dates' record, achieving a 52:39. This run is not mentioned at all in Jetro's video. There's no footage for it that exists anymore, which is the reason why it was never retimed. About 2.5 months later, TKM bettered his world record, getting it all the way down to a 51:46. And then the very next day, he bettered it again, getting it down to a 47:33, which is a big jump. This is TKM's first run that's actually detailed in Jetro's video, but it was his third world record overall. Here we can see a snapshot of what the leaderboard looked like at the time. So these are all runs that were completed before or during September of 2017. The underlined runs have been retimed by the mods. So we can see here that Unhallowed's run of 49 minutes, which should actually be a 55, has eclipsed TKM's first 2 records, but not TKM's 40:40, which is his retimed 47:33. Hopefully this example kind of helps you understand what I mean by eclipsed. Now let's jump back into Jetro's video starting from TKM's September 30th, 47:33 world record.
Will be heavily optimized, and this would be proven just 3 days later when Dates would take back his world record with a time of 44:16.
It is true that Dates reclaimed the world record on October 3rd, but from what I've found, the run was actually a 44:45. This is Dates' current PB. So what does that mean? Right, it's been retimed. So it's now a 38:12 on the leaderboard. It was retimed in 2019 when the footage still existed, but it no longer does. So I can't be positive if it was actually a 44:45 or if it was a 44:16. I'm inclined to go with the 44:45 time since that was at least at one point what it was on the leaderboard. Let's see what Jetro has to say about this run.
And even though none of Date's times survived from this era, it was obviously a very strong record, as it would go on to stay the world record for over a year.
If you go to the SRC history tab right now, this claim appears to be true. It says that Dates holds the world record for a year before I beat it, but it is not the case. In reality, TKM would beat it after only 2 months with a 42:11 on December 18th. This run, the 42:11, would remain the world record for about 10 months. And this run's significant because it was the record for so long, and also because it was the record when Illuminati, Relo, and I started running the category at roughly the same time in fall of the following year. Here we can see how TKM's 42:11 is eclipsed not only by Dates' PB, but also his own 40:40 time, which is really a 47:33 if you remember. Think about it. The leaderboard right now is claiming that TKM got a 40:40 and then a couple months later decided to submit a time that was nearly 2 minutes slower, which just makes no sense. The only reason that I know that the 42:11 was not retimed is because I remember it from firsthand experience, and then also the screenshots I managed to dig up from the Wayback Machine here. So this is TKM's fourth world record, but only one of them gets mentioned in the Jetro video, and only one of them remains on the SRC history page. Now we can jump back into Jetro's video, which is still presenting the Dates 44 as the long-standing year-long world record.
But despite how dominant Dates had been over the category for the first 2 years, that would change in late 2018, as the category was about to go through a massive revolution. On October 24, 2018, the year-long world record from Dates would be beaten by a completely new runner to the category, MTOM's 127.
Hey, that's me. It's also not true, unfortunately. The next world record actually belongs to Illuminati 7777 with a 42:06 about 12 days earlier on October 12th. This run, like his account, has been deleted, so there's nothing to see here.
He did have one new strategy up his sleeve, however, the Panto. While Franklin's Buffalo was undoubtedly a faster car, it constantly got stuck on something from the smallest hit and was overall pretty inconsistent with jumps. So by switching to a smaller car, some sections of the run became both easier and more consistent, especially by the docks where you have to thread the needle through containers multiple times.
As much as I would love to take credit for being the first to realize the supremacy of the Panto, and I really would like to, I fucking love this car, it wouldn't be right. I actually am not positive who first utilized it. I think it was either Illuminati or Relo. I know for sure Illuminati was using it before me. The need for the Panto is not immediately obvious and not fully covered in Jetro's video. What happens is if you get in enough serious head-on collisions in GTA, the kind that you get into a lot when you're launching your car all around an industrial area using very narrow ramps, you eventually damage your car in a way that affects its speed and handling. You kind of smash the fender into the wheel or damage an axle. I don't know the physical explanation for it. I'm not that kind of engineer. But what I do know is the front wheels get messed up and they stop spinning, and you can't use it for a stunt jump speedrun any longer.
Oh, shit.
This kind of damage tended to happen often by the time you got to the port section of the run, so you always needed to grab a new car or save and load, which costed a lot of time. And the Panto essentially always spawns in this fixed spot at the start of the port section. So initially it was just one of the cars we would grab often. We would just grab a random car. After some time, we realized that the Panto is actually a fucking tank. It can only suffer cosmetic damage, I don't know the reason for this, like in the game's code. I've heard it said that the Panto is treated like it's a motorcycle, but I don't really know if that makes any sense. All I know is you can smash the piss out of this thing and it just keeps going. Like, you just cannot damage the wheels in a way that they get locked up like the Buffalo. And on top of all that, it's easy to drive, it's easy to get up to a consistent speed for the jumps, and it's really narrow, so it fits through the trailers really nicely in the port section of the run. So around this time in the fall of 2018, Illuminati, Rello, me, and Friendly Baron all started using the Panto for this section of the run. Even though we knew that with perfect gameplay, the Buffalo or a lot of different cars would be faster, the Panto is just so consistent and so easy to use. Back to our history graph. This was already mentioned in Jetro's video, but I broke Illuminati's record on October 24th with a 41:23. Not to be outdone, Illuminati would come right back the next day and beat my time with a 41:14. Then about 2 weeks later, I would one-up him and get a 40:54, and then Illuminati would take 3 seconds off the record in as many days. Of these 5 world records between the two of us, only 2 are mentioned in Jetro's video. For the most part, there was nothing new or special about these runs. The biggest time save in the category around this time was actually from part of the run where you're not doing any stunt jumping. I'm fairly certain this was a Rello discovery, if you could really call it a discovery. Up to this point, all runs of the category did prologue the way it was done in the main category classic percent, which bans the practice of intentionally failing a mission over and over again to exploit the skip checkpoint feature. But this was only a rule in classic percent. Stunt jumps followed any percent rules. So Rello started running the prologue like it was run in any percent, which saves about 30 seconds or so because you can skip the shootouts just by failing the mission 3 times to skip to the next checkpoint. This also essentially made prologue an auto scroller where everyone took about the same amount of time to complete prologue depending on load times and just button spamming. So every run after this, up until the rule change in 2019, has about 6 minutes to 6 minutes and 5 seconds of prologue at the start of their run. Rello would go on to beat Illuminati's time with his 40:30 on November 17th, which is documented in Jetro's video. Rello would then introduce 2 new strats before his next world record. These were a new route utilizing the 9F for more jumps during the Franklin Lamar mission, and stealing the cop's pistol instead of picking up the fixed spawn pistol. Jedro explains these 2 improvements in depth in his video, so you can go back and watch that if you want more information.
Both of these new strategies would prove very effective for Relo, beating his own record from just a week ago by over 3 minutes and getting the first sub 40 time with a 37:18. Not to be beaten though, Toms would learn these strategies as well and came back a week later to claim back his world record with a time of 36:56.
Okay, we have a lot to unpack here. First of all, Rello did not get the first sub 40. I did. This run is still on the leaderboard right now, clearly showing an earlier date than Rello's run. The only problem is that it has been eclipsed. This screenshot shows runs completed on or before November 18th, the date I completed my time. My 39:23 is the only time on here that's not been retimed. If it were retimed, it would be around a 33:20. This run was not my PB in 2019, so the mods didn't bother to retime it, and then Twitch deleted the video at some point between 2019 and 2024, so it will remain eclipsed by all of these runs. I even include a comment in the run description about this run being the first sub 40 and pointed it out to Jethro when he was making his video, but this run did not make it into his video. So Rella was the second to get sub 40 then, right? Well, no, Illuminati got it also the very next day with a 39:09. This would be his final world record. Like the other 3 world records, there's no surviving video and it is no longer on the leaderboard. Both of our runs were done using the old Buffalo to Panto to RNG car route. Rella would not create his new route until the 27th. So let's fast forward a week to that point. So, the 27th. This is going to be a busy day for stunt jumps. So this is finally the day that Relo becomes the third person to get sub 40, right? We know that he got it on the 27th from Jetro's video. The surprising answer is no. He actually gets beaten to the sub 40 also by Friendly Baron. So this is going to get a bit complicated, but I'll try to explain it clearly. As I said, this was a really busy day for stunt jumps, and the reason for that is that this is the day that Relo dropped his new route, and people were really quick to try it out. The first person to try it was Baron. Relo explained the route to him during Baron's stream, and he got a world record almost right away, getting a 38:19. And I believe this is his first world record in any game, as this was the first game he speedran. This screenshot is about all that remains of the run, unfortunately, as it is not on speedrun.com. The splits were posted here by then lesser known runner Burhack, who would go on to set stunt jumps and any percent and 100% world records in the years to follow. He screenshotted this directly from Baron's stream and posted it here in the Discord. But you can see that Baron got this time around midnight on the 27th Eastern time, which is my time, so it would have been, I think, late on the 26th for him. There's a bit of a discussion about the new route and even some interest from Dark Viper in learning the now popular category. He would not end up running the category until much, much later and never competed for a world record, unfortunately. Just 3 hours later, Relo would complete his 37:18, becoming the fourth runner to achieve sub 40, not the first. And he claimed back his world record from Baron. And this is the story of Baron's short lived first ever world record. Jetro's video tells the tale of Baron's short lived second world record. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Fuck yeah. Suck my dick, Friendly Baron. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait a second. Who is that? This player hasn't come up in the history and they haven't had any world records yet. So why would Toms be saying this about him? Well, it turns out that just hours before Toms had gotten this sub 37, someone else had managed to beat Relo's world record with a 37-minute flat.
Notice the date here on Baron's tweet and the time, 3 hours. This is clearly referring to Relo beating Baron's world record on the 27th of November. This is particularly obvious because I did not tell him to suck my dick until the 3rd of December, a week later. Late in the day on December 2nd, Baron would get a 37-minute even time, beating Relo's world record from the 27th. I discuss his run and some small route changes he made during my 36:56 the following day. You can see some of this in Jetro's video. So both Baron's first and second world record would be beaten before he had a chance to even submit them, and for whatever reason he chose to not bother submitting them in the end. So these can be considered somewhat unofficial world records, but as an eyewitness, I can tell you they did exist, they were legitimate runs, and they were world records. Just a quick side note, jumping back to November 27th, I'll mention that TKM would also go on to join the Sub 40 Club on this day. Like I said, it was a very busy day for stunt jumps. This run occurred later in the day than Baron and Relo's quicker run, so it was never a world record, even unofficially. It was his PB in 2019, though, so it was retimed and sits on the leaderboard today as a 32:34. Back to our world record history graph, we'll find our last lost world record. This one comes from Baron again. This time he at least got around to submitting it to SRC. It was a 36:03 on December 9th, which beat my last ever world record in the category by nearly a full minute. This run is still on the leaderboard, but no surviving video. Twitch strikes again. As a content creator, I wonder if any of these 3 lost world records by Baron are backed up in any way. I'm surprised they never made it onto YouTube in any form. But this 36:03 is eclipsed by a bunch of other runs, basically every run from the era with surviving video. If it were retimed today, it would be around 30 minutes flat. Remember, at this point, Prologue is basically an auto-scroller that always takes 6 minutes even. The last thing I'd like to correct from Jetro's video is a bit of a nitpick, but I'd still like to go over it because I think it's some cool history.
In late December of 2018, just a few weeks after Tom's world record, Relo had just finished developing a new, even faster route for the run than before. He knew exactly how strong the route could be and immediately wanted to tell the community about it. And as a stroke of luck, Baron happened to be streaming at that exact time. There were two major optimizations made to Relo's new route. You see, most players had been using Relo's original strategy of staying in the 9F for the jumps on the top half of the city, but then switching to the Panto for the bottom half. However, Relo figured that if you stayed in the 9F the whole time and completed the bottom half first, it would actually be much faster. Usually, you would start by doing the top half of the city and then make your way back in order to finish the first mission. But now, we won't finish the mission until we're ready to head up north. This helps save time by not only using one vehicle for the entire run, but it also means that when we blow ourselves up at the airport, we will respawn at the Union Depository and be right where we need to be to start the top half of the city. And if done optimally, this route would save over 3 minutes from the old strategy.
I think this Relo teaches Baron a new route on stream and he immediately gets world record story is actually about Baron's 38-minute run from November 27th, and Jethro and probably Relo relaying information to him got these mixed up. I think this for a couple of reasons. One, it definitely happened on the 27th, and it'd be weird for it to have happened twice. Two, in Baron's 33-minute run, where he'd supposedly just been told this new route by Relo, he's already comparing against splits for the run, showing a previously completed run with the same route. And in fact, this is probably likely another lost world record, but I can't find any evidence of this being a real run other than just these splits. Three, this new route using the 9F for all the city jumps, then completing the mission and taxiing from Franklin's house was discussed weeks prior in the Discord. And four, Baron gave commentary on this run and talks about Relo having shown him a route to give him a world record in a previous run. And he doesn't say that it happened in this run. So I'm almost positive it's just the November 27th run and some wires got crossed in the making of this video.
Finding the shortest possible route that connects all the stunt jumps around the city. It's been quite fun to watch the route evolve and help out the community a bit in finding new routes or just testing their ideas. Another runner named Relo once came up with a run while watching my stream, explained it to me in my chat, and I tried it as the last run of the day and got world record with it. It was pretty heckin' epic.
This is commentary that Baron made on this 33-minute run after the fact when he uploaded it to YouTube. So if this story of Relo teaching him the route during the stream and then him getting this world record happened during this run, he would have said, by the way, this happened twice. But no, he's referring to a previous run. He's referring to the 38-minute run on November 27th, I'm almost positive. I wanted to take a closer look at this conversation here. This is really a continuation of a conversation that occurred on my stream where I mentioned working on a potential new route to eliminate the Panto from the run. Relo brings it up here in the Discord and discusses alternatives, including the Voltic and the Pagali, which are some other common cars you can find around LS, particularly the Pagali. I then describe the exact route improvements just discussed in Jethro's video. Use only the 9F and do all the city jumps on mission, then complete the mission and do the taxi section starting from Frank's house. Relo pulls a Pete Campbell here by claiming he also considered this.
I thought of that. Turned out it already existed, but I arrived at it independently.
I can't say for certain which one of us was the first one to have this idea, but I can say for certain that Baron was the first one to actually do a run of it and get world record with it. It's a pretty obvious route in hindsight. We'd already been using the 9F on mission for about half the jumps. I just extended it to the other half of the jumps. And it replaces the Panto with the 9F. The 9F is much, much faster than the Panto. It's faster than almost every single car in the game. At least we're talking, single player here. Another point about the 9F is since we're on mission, we get the armor buff that you get when you're on a mission. So similar to how the Panto can't take damage that causes the wheels to lock up, the 9F also can't take damage that causes the wheels to lock up. And no matter how hard you hit something, you can't fly through the windshield and die. These are things that only happen during free roam or during some very specific missions. So it's another reason why the 9F is just superior to any other route we came up with. Going back to our Wayback Machine world record graph one last time, we can see that we've reached the end of it. This 33:21 by Barron was world record in May of 2019 when the timing changed for the category, and this run was retimed to be a 27-minute time. From this point forward, the history page on SRC should be accurate. Runners have done a better job of uploading their runs to YouTube instead of relying on Twitch highlights. So the rest of Jetro's video is accurate as far as I know. I stepped away from stunt jumping for a couple years after late 2018, so I don't remember as much about what happened in between Barron taking the world record here and Saris getting the world record a couple years later. We'll also take a look here of this screenshot again. This showcases all of the surviving runs on SRC of what I like to call the Panto era of stunt jumps. So everything between TKM's 4211 and Friendly Baron's 2718 there, these were all Panto runs. They used the Panto at some point during them. Other than Datez's 3812, which is really a 44-minute time. You can see here that only 3 runs here didn't get retimed because they weren't PBs in 2019, and by the time the mods got around to retiming later, they had already lost their video thanks to Twitch. I would like to take this time to ask the moderators if they would consider retiming these runs. I know the video doesn't survive anymore unless Barron might be able to track down his 3603. Some of TKM's old times when I tried to find the runs say that they're private, not unavailable. So some of them were on YouTube and listed as private. So maybe they still exist and can be re-uploaded. For the 3603 and the 3923, I can tell you 99% confidence that these runs should be between 6 minutes and 6 minutes and 5 seconds faster than what they appear here. So that's up to the moderators if they want to do that. The 4211 is a little more complicated because that's still from the era where people were going through and doing the shootouts during prologue. So the time's a little bit more up in the air. It could be, 6.5 minutes. It could be 7 minutes. We really don't know. But it's not up to me. It's above my pay grade. I would just like for the world record history tab to be as accurate as possible. There's nothing we can do about Illuminati's runs being gone. Okay, I'm going to end my analysis here. I had a couple more sections planned where I could have gone over brake boosting since that wasn't covered in Jetro's video, but I think it could be saved for its own video because it's so important to basically every single speedrunning category in GTA 5, not just stunt jumps. So I can save that for a video of its own. I wanted to stress again that I really enjoyed Jetro's video, and it's much more polished and better to watch than anything I'm capable of creating. It's just, it's unfortunate that the history of this category has nearly been lost to time, and as a result of that, the history he presented missed so many world records. So that's kind of what led me to make this video, was to highlight the 3 world records by TKM that weren't highlighted, the 4 from Illuminati, the 2 or 3 from Baron, and 1 by me. I know if I was in Jetro's shoes and I didn't have the firsthand knowledge and some of the memories of running the game at this time, I would have been completely lost and unable to make an accurate video of what happened during this era. And it was a great time for GTA speedrunning, I think. It was the most fun I've ever had speedrunning, I'm sure. And it's a great category. It's still, I think, my favorite category to speedrun today. I've even been thinking about trying to derust and go for 3rd place overall. I've fallen down to about sixth place now, I think, on the leaderboard, and I think third place is doable. I don't think I have the capability to compete with Saurus, but third place I would only have to take off 30 seconds. I could do that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I can't imagine anyone's actually stayed listening to this for the 30 minutes plus I've been rambling on for. But if you did, you must really like it. And if you'd like me to intensively research another era of GTA 5 speedrunning, like perhaps when the old GTA community came and tried to remove classic percent from the leaderboard, or the great FPS debate, or just another good period of competition where we had lots of world records traded back and forth in a short amount of time, let me know, and I can make another video like this perhaps.